Whoa! What's going on, Halloween fans? My name's Dave McRae, and in this video, I want to talk about something that I have brought up in the past, but I've never dedicated an entire video to it. I think others have kind of mentioned it in passing before. I don't know if there are other videos out there where people are talking about it. There might be. But nonetheless, I want to talk about it today. Halloween 2, 1981, Reimagined. Imagine, if you will, they didn't do Halloween 2018. That movie doesn't exist. They didn't do Halloween Kills. That movie doesn't exist. Instead, they decided to do an alternate Halloween 2 from 1981, setting the whole movie in that time period, 1978, picking up exactly where the original left off. And the reason why I feel that that might have been really interesting to see, and I know I'm not alone in these thoughts, is because I think they did such a great job at replicating that world during the flashback sequences at the beginning of Halloween Kills. Now, it's one thing to have a flashback that lasts, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, that is mostly in a controlled environment on a soundstage. It's a whole other thing to go out and about in the real world and recreate a 90-minute movie as a period piece. I mean, that's exactly what you'd have to do. I mean, your budget is going to go up. You're going to have lots of cars. You're going to have more actors and extras and, 70s clothing and all the set decoration you'd have to do between hospitals and homes and stores and storefronts and, whatever the case is, right? But as I was watching Halloween Kills for the very first time, and I was watching that flashback sequence, I couldn't help but feel that I wanted to stay in that world. I know, no surprise to many of my viewers, I'm sure, right? Because it feels like Halloween 78. But if you're going to erase Halloween 2 anyway, and you're going to tell me that all those things and all those events that happened in Halloween 2 never actually happened because that movie doesn't exist, if you're going to tell me that anyway, why don't we just take this as an opportunity to reimagine a Halloween 2 set in 1978, picking up exactly where the first one left off? You could even hire Aaron Armstrong to be Michael Myers. When it comes to the character of Dr. Loomis, you probably want to hire an experienced actor, not necessarily the guy they hired for the flashback in Halloween Kills. I don't even think he was an actor. And I don't think he could carry a film being Dr. Loomis, because you need somebody with experience. You need somebody with the gravitas to be able to carry that role through. But I wouldn't hire a name actor. I wouldn't necessarily hire somebody we all know. I might go to the theater, to the stage, to find, a well seasoned actor that maybe sort of had that Loomis resemblance, and with some complementary prosthetics, we really might be able to kind of nail something pretty special. Now, obviously, you would probably have to recast Laurie Strode. That obviously would be the case. But this is also something that would be done with a plan, right? So what I'm talking about here would be instead of Halloween 18, okay? And then what you gave us with Halloween 18 would have been the second chapter, right? So we fast forward 40 years later, and then you could bring back Jamie Lee Curtis, right? And then she reprises her role as a 60-year-old Laurie Strode. Now, I don't know what the overall story would be necessarily yet. Maybe there's certain things from that original Halloween 2 that you could cherry pick, but I kind of see it as an opportunity, whereas the original Halloween 2, in comparison to the original film, sort of went more of the slasher route with more blood and showing more, thanks to Friday the 13th. You could take this as an opportunity to make an alternate version of Halloween 2 more in line with the original in terms of its stalking and lurking, right? And suspense and more of that theater of the mind. Whereas Halloween 2 from 81 largely overall, not altogether, but for the most part, stepped away from that theater of the mind of the first movie. And you also don't have to introduce the brother-sister storyline. I mean, you don't have to do that just because the original Halloween 2 did. And I understand why. I get why John Carpenter put that in there. I understand it. But when you watch Halloween 2, it really is irrelevant. And it's irrelevant because we never see the character of Laurie Strode discover that she is, in fact, the sister of Michael Myers. We never see her come to that realization. The movie ends without us even knowing if she ever knew that. Do you know what I mean? You could just change up the dream sequence where she's having that dream in the hospital, change it to the events that just happened that night. She's having a nightmare about her being in the closet being attacked. Okay, easy peasy, done. And then you restructure the dialogue in the back of the marshal's car between Marion and Loomis to something else. And that's it. That's it. I mean, that really is it. And then we would just assume that, oh, I guess he's, going after her because she's the one that got away or whatever the case is, right? We would fill in those blanks. But I don't know, man. I guess now I see it more of a missed opportunity. But to be fair as well, I mean, if they had announced that this is what they were going to do 5 or 6 years ago, we would not have necessarily been on board because we would have not had the flashback from Halloween Kills as a reference to see the TLC, the Tender Love and Care, that they put into that, where we could then go, oh, I want to see more of that, right? We would have not had that reference. So even if they had announced that that's what they were going to do, myself included, probably would have been like, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? But now that we've gotten this little snippet, this little taste of what is possible, it kind of makes you, in retrospect, go, if you're saying that Halloween 2 is going anywhere, why don't we just gotta, you know what I mean? It's fascinating. Now, again, I don't know what the story would be, like the overall story. But, you could certainly cherry pick, like I said, certain things from that original Halloween 2 if you wanted to. But it doesn't mean the whole movie has to take place at a hospital. Maybe Laurie goes to the hospital, gets stitched up. She's there for a couple of hours and then she goes home and we're reintroduced to her father, which would be her actual father, not her foster father. And we're introduced to her mother and maybe we see that dynamic and maybe Loomis comes over, because he wants to check in on her and he wants some answers. He wants to actually talk to her because he didn't have an opportunity to do it when he shot him 6 times off the balcony. He wants to talk to her, but her parents don't want her to talk to this strange guy or the police at the moment because she's been traumatized or whatever the case is. But Laurie inside actually wants to talk to Loomis because Loomis saved her life. And if it wasn't for Loomis, she probably would have died. And she witnessed she didn't witness, but she discovered the bodies of her friends. And yeah, maybe she's traumatized a little bit, but maybe there's a little bit of fight in her as well. I mean, that's an angle that you might be able to play up a bit, right? And maybe, she sneaks out of her house to go and find Loomis and to help Loomis and Brackett and the police or whatever. I don't know. I'm not saying necessarily you have to do that. I'm just saying that's a direction, right? That's an angle. That's something you might be able to weave into the narrative amongst all the other things that you have going on. But maybe it's more of a simpler story again. Maybe it really is about hunting Michael. He's loose in the neighborhood and he's just going from door to door. Instead of it taking place at a hospital for the vast majority of the movie, maybe it's just going door to door. He's hunting people in the neighborhood. What Brackett feared in that first movie, right? You're telling me they're lined up for a slaughterhouse. They could be. Right? I mean, foreshadowing just like fucking a couple hours earlier, right? Maybe you bring a thunderstorm in, I love my thunderstorms, but you bring a storm in and you play with light and shadow with the lightning and things like that. And now it's like, fuck, now, the authorities have to deal with the elements as well. It's like, fuck, it's Halloween, but now the storm has rolled in and Michael's loose somewhere in the neighborhood and the cops and Loomis think they're hot on his tail and they go into certain homes and they discover dead bodies and shit. I mean, maybe that's your alternate Halloween 2 set in the world of 1978. Like you can play up that kind of stuff too, really play into that ominous, storm, lightning, thunder, there, not there vibe shit. Very much kind of like what I was doing in my sequel concept idea video for a sequel to Halloween 18. Like that kind of stuff, right? Really play into that. and maybe Laurie's right there, little 17-year-old Laurie, she's right there, and then if you were to do Halloween 18, the way that you did it, maybe you change a few, things around, but then when we are introduced to Laurie in 18, she's got even more baggage and more experience because Halloween 2 hasn't been erased. And now it almost feels even more justified that she's the way that she is. There's a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of angles you could play here. Instead of going this way, Halloween 2, 1981, we go this way, Halloween 2, 2018, or whatever it would have been, right? I don't know. I think, again, it's easy for me to say now. It's probably easy for us all to say because we've seen what they're capable of doing with the look and the feel and the vibe, obviously, with that flashback. But I got to say that it kind of excites me a little bit. I think there's, now definitely I would be totally open to that. As much as I love Halloween 2 from 1981, it's my favorite sequel. I think it connects very well, although it's a bit of a different vibe, obviously, as we know, but it does connect. It feels more like the original, I think, than any of the other sequels do, despite its flaws. But I in retrospect now, I'm kind of like, that excites me. What I just told you there about the storm and the lightning and the stuff, and instead of it being a hospital, it's just the neighborhood of Haddonfield, and the cops and Loomis and maybe even Laurie are like just a couple of steps behind him all the time, and they're discovering dead bodies, and you could have they tell people to batten down the hatches, a storm is coming, but there's a curfew now, there's somebody out, all that kind of shit, right? And oh my God, he's going from home to home and shit. Like, fuck yes. Yes! Set in 1978. That'd be wild. With Aaron Armstrong as Michael. Maybe even that mask, the flashback mask. Why not? Do it. It would be interesting. Anyways, folks, my name's Dave McRae. Comment below and let me know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about everything I have discussed here today. I would love to know. If you want to follow me on social media, you can. There are my links right there. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. They are in the description. All my links are in the description. Check them out until your heart's content. And when your heart is content, check them out again. That's going to do it for me. In the meantime and in between time, I will talk to you soon. Cheers.